Shots have been fired, y'all. And I'm not talking about your little typical shots. I'm not talking about no little beef. The shit Elon Musk said out his mouth about Bill Gates, if you got a brain, you can understand what he's trying to get at.
Today we're looking at mind-bending TikToks that will make you question your sanity.
This is gonna keep you up while you sleep tonight. The hollow moon theory. Our moon really doesn't make sense when you look at the facts. Like, it shouldn't exist.
I now have 21 channel members. Thank you to all you guys for the support. You guys won't be disappointed. I have a couple big things coming from my channel members. So if you haven't joined, make sure to join the family. We recently just hit 60k subs, which is amazing. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to smash that subscribe button. As y'all know, the like goal is obviously 2,000 likes. Let's try to hit that. Let's go.
A man was sawing asbestos cement sheets by hand at a construction site, leaving himself covered in asbestos dust. After work that day, he drove home and entered the house without changing his clothes. He went straight to the bathroom, changed out of his dirty clothes, and tossed them on the floor. His wife noticed the dusty clothes on the ground, picked them up, and took them to the yard to shake them off. Unknowingly, she too became covered in asbestos particles. Both the husband and wife inhaled asbestos fibers, completely unaware of the danger they posed. When magnified 100 times, asbestos fibers reveal countless needle-like structures invisible to the naked eye. Once inhaled, these fibers travel deep into the lungs. Immune cells attempt to break down the fibers, but are instead damaged and killed, triggering the formation of scar tissue around the affected area. Asbestos fibers can remain lodged in the lungs for decades, and the resulting scar tissue continues to grow years after exposure. Eventually, excessive scarring can cause the lungs to fail. By the time 80% of patients are diagnosed, the disease has already reached its advanced stages.
Color a person likes determines the nature of their character. Black is the collection and end of all colors, representing the unknown abyss and ultimate sense of power. Those who prefer black often have a maverick and strong sense of autonomy in their character. They like to control their privacy and destiny and are reluctant to easily reveal their true thoughts to others. Those who like black often give people a mysterious and calm feeling. It seems that they maintain a somewhat distant distance from the surroundings. People want to get close to them but dare not approach them rashly. They usually have their own opinions and judgments and don't follow the crowd. They are low-key and powerful in the crowd. Many people who love black have a desire for power and control in their hearts and hope to take the initiative. Therefore, black is often regarded as a symbol of authority and solemnity. Wearing a black suit or dress in formal occasions will make them feel more confident. People with a black personality are calm and persistent in handling things, like to solve problems independently, don't like to be indecisive, and are very efficient. However, black also has a dark side. For some people, having a preference for black may mean having a pessimistic or rebellious attitude towards the world. They may think that reality can never reach the ideal state in their hearts, so they want to give up everything negatively. Psychological views divide those who like black into two categories. One type is good at using black to express themselves. The other type uses black to escape from reality. In extreme cases, those who are addicted to black may be deeply trapped in negative emotions and have a negative and cynical attitude towards life, which needs to be guarded against being accompanied by depressive emotions. Overall, those who prefer black are like travelers in the long night. There is great strength and firmness in their hearts, but they also carry heavy thoughts. Power is bred in the darkness. They stick to themselves under the mysterious protective color. At the same time, they also need to be careful not to let themselves fall into the shadow of loneliness. In summary, color preferences are closely related to personality traits. It's like a multicolored mirror reflecting the inner self. We hope that everyone can make good use of this mirror and better appreciate the beauty of the personality represented by each color. Of course, the corresponding relationship between color and personality is not absolute. Everyone's growth experience and cultural background are different, and the interpretation of colors will also vary. Color preferences can only provide an interesting perspective to help us better understand ourselves and others. Just as Lucia's color test reveals, The colors we subjectively prefer are in line with the unique stories in our hearts. Understanding these color codes can help us understand the emotions and personalities of others in social interactions. That's all for today's content. If there is any color that hasn't been mentioned, you are welcome to leave a message in the comment section.
If you accidentally step into a higher dimension, you could be sliced into pieces and probably die. But if you somehow survived and came back, you would notice that the world has changed. You could see and access people's internal organs and rearrange them like you want. Transform someone into their own mirror image, or heal and reattach severed limbs. You could also walk through walls and teleport to wherever you want. But it's all impossible for us because...
That just reminded me of this scene from Interstellar. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Interstellar. That's like my top 3 favorite movies of all time. Where the guy like literally just went into another dimension and he could see himself from like a higher perspective. It was crazy. It was one of the craziest scenes.
This is a public service announcement. Please share this information widely. The FDA has recently issued a safety statement regarding 2 commonly used over-the-counter allergy medications called cetirizine and levocetirizine, or Zyrtec and Xyzal respectively, because chronic long-term use of these medications could put you at risk of developing generalized itching after stopping the medications abruptly. This has been studied previously, and I've talked about this on my social media content before, but the FDA's adverse event reporting system noted that there were about 200 cases in the United States from 2017 to 2023. Most of the cases started after daily use for at least 3 months, but some people reported having symptoms after using the medication for 1 month. And so abrupt discontinuation typically increased the risk of this happening, and many patients found relief if they were slowly tapering off the doses. Most people did find symptom relief, but some people had a little bit of persistent symptoms. So it's important for people to be aware of this. We don't know exactly why this is happening, and I think it's severely underreported. So we need to raise awareness about this issue. So share this post with as many people as possible so that those who are on these medications know about it, because over 60 million packages are sold in the United States each year.
Have you ever wondered what goes on inside your body when you sleep? To keep you sharp, your brain switches to cleaning mode and eliminates toxins. Your body boosts your immune system, creates new cells, and repairs muscles. Dreams are not merely arbitrary. Your brain improves learning and organizes memories. Sleep is therefore the best way to give your body a boost.
So this wannabe TikToker is now going to prison for life. Now his name's Mohammed, and Mohammed is 26 during this time, and he works in London as a delivery driver for a kebab restaurant. And bro loves to make TikToks, mostly just videos of him acting like a goofy ass and doing whatever the hell this is and whatever the hell this is. Yeah, it seems like he aspires to be an influencer. But one day in 2021, he's at the kebab restaurant, and he meets this woman, Louise. And Louise is 71, she's a businesswoman, and she eats at the restaurant a lot. And soon she becomes friendly with Mohammed and this other guy who works at the restaurant, Al-Jundi. And Al-Jundi is 23 and he's a cook at the kebab place. And bro is kind of a sketchy dude, like he's always trying to con people. And over time, Mohammed and Al-Jundi start to notice Louise got money. Like, she's kind of rich. She owns a few super nice properties in London worth 4.6 million pounds, or about 6.1 million US dollars. And she really wants to sell these properties so that she can give the money to her adult children. And Al-Jundi and Mohammed learn this about her, and they're like, jackpot! And they decide they're gonna not only scam her, but murder her. And so, over the next few months, they spend time becoming friends with her, particularly Al-Jundi. And Al-Jundi convinces Louise that he is this wealthy businessman, a high-ranking property developer, who is also a chef at a kebab restaurant. I don't know actually how that works, but over time, he convinces her that he works in real estate and that he wants to help her out. Specifically, he tells her that he has this super rich girlfriend who would love to buy her 2 London properties off of her for way above market value, and that he wants to do it in such a way that she won't have to pay taxes on it. And Louise is like, sounds dope! And she goes and she tells her family and friends about the deal, and her family and friends are like, no, this all sounds very shady. But unfortunately, I guess Louise isn't hearing them. For some reason, she trusts Al-Jundi. So Al Jundy tells Louise that she first needs to transfer the properties to him and put them in his name, and he'll take care of the rest. And if she does that, she will eventually get this big lump sum of cash. Then Al Jundy goes to hire a lawyer to help him prepare this paperwork. And the lawyer looks at all this and he's like, "Nah, bro, you're obviously scamming this woman." In fact, several different lawyers turn him down because they can see this whole thing is sketchy. But eventually, he does get the paperwork done. And before the deal is finalized, he talks Louise into giving him the keys to one of the properties. And immediately, Al Jundy lets Mohammed move in there without Louise's knowledge. And this is great news for Mohammed. Like, he moves in and he starts living rent-free. He starts making videos in this place, like showing it off on TikTok like he owns it. But here's where things get dark. These idiots think that if they murder Louise, that they can then permanently own her 2 houses. So, a few weeks later, Al Jundy sets up a meeting with Louise at one of her London properties to finalize their deal. He says there'll be a lawyer there, and his rich girlfriend who wants to buy the properties will be there, and they'll close this deal and be done. And so Louise shows up, and of course there's no lawyer there, there's no rich girlfriend there, only Mohammed, Al Jundy, and this other girl they've been hanging out with. Her name's Maria. Maria is their friend and she appears in Mohammed's TikToks sometimes. And so anyway, Louise shows up and they all chat for a bit, and then Al Jundy and Maria leave, and Al Jundy takes Maria to a local jewelry store, and I guess he buys her some jewelry or something, and then I guess he drives her home. But what he's really trying to do is create himself an alibi for this murder that's about to happen. Meanwhile, Mohammed is still at the house with Louise, alone. And he waits until she isn't paying attention, and then he grabs a hairdryer, and suddenly, bam! He starts strangling her with the cord, and she tries to fight him, and she struggles, but it's no use. Mohammed is way stronger, and unfortunately, he unalives her. Then, Al Jundy arrives back at the property where Mohammed is. Then he and Mohammed leave, and they go to the kebab shop where they work, and they pick up some cleaning supplies. And this is actually security footage of them outside the restaurant. Then they go back and clean up the crime scene. They wrap Louise's body in a duvet, and they dump her into one of those wheeled garbage bins. Next, they cover the body in the can with leaves and lawn clippings. Then they get Louise's phone, and they start pretending to be her, and they send texts to Louise's family and friends, telling them that I'm totally fine, and I've decided to go to China, but I'll be back soon. They're obviously trying to explain her sudden disappearance. Now, at this point, they have to get rid of Louise's car, too, her black BMW, because it's evidence. And so Mohammed puts it up for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and he sells it for way under market value, so it sells fast, within like 2 days. And then he takes that money and he goes and he buys a bunch of new clothes and shit. And then he makes TikToks of himself showing off those clothes. Did bro really just unalive someone and then buy himself a Calvin Klein fanny pack? Anyway, not to mention, if you look at the background of this TikTok, this one in particular was shot at Louise's property after she was murdered. Now that will obviously come into play later. Meanwhile, Louise's family is freaking out, like she's missing. No one has seen her for a few days, which is very unlike her. And the texts they're getting from her phone are kind of weird. Like she's saying she's going to China? Not only that, these texts don't sound like her at all. Louise is 71 years old. These messages feel like they were written by a teenager. So immediately, her family knows something is up. Now at some point, someone goes to the police and reports Louise missing. Probably her family. And so police start investigating. And of course, one of the first things they do is they go to the property she owns to see if she's there. And so they go to this property that Mohammed has low-key been living at this whole time. And so police see that he's living there and they're like, I thought this place was supposed to be vacant. And they end up searching the house and they find some pieces of evidence, including a sweatshirt with blood on it. And they take it and they get it tested for DNA, and guess whose DNA they find on it? Louise. Combine that with TikToks Mohammed posted of himself dancing outside of her house after she was murdered, and now Mohammed is a suspect. And police know that Mohammed and Al-Jundi are friends, so they go and they search Al-Jundi's house. And there they find the wheeled garbage bin where the guys had dumped Louise's body. Al-Jundi had moved it there from the crime scene, thinking that no one would find it. Not only that, the day after the murder, Mohammed was giving Maria a ride, driving her home, and his dumb ass confesses to her by joking about it, like, oh, I can't believe we really unalived that lady. So when police question Maria, of course she's like, yeah, he was joking about murdering that woman when he was driving me home the other night. And so, bam, they arrest Mohammed. Here's his mugshot. And also, bam, they arrest Al-Jundi too. Here's his mugshot. And they both go to trial, and they're both found guilty, and Mohammed gets sentenced to life in prison, and Al-Jundi also gets sentenced to life in prison. Good.
That's a well-deserved life in prison because that lady did nothing to them. And it's crazy because I could tell like she was probably a really nice person because she trusted them and the whole family was sketch. Shaking my head, dude.
This is you. There's your dad, his dad, and his. Keep going. Soon you'll fly past powdered wigs, chainmail, mammoths, and eventually stumble upon a guy squatting in the dirt, chewing on a beetle, and trying not to die before sundown. That guy? That's your ancestor. He has no name, no shoes, and no idea that you, a distant descendant with a snack addiction and a mild caffeine dependency, even exist. But here's the thing. If that guy, or any one of the thousands of people in your ancestral chain, had tripped at the wrong moment,
oh, I wonder what killed,
gotten eaten by something toothy,
Hell no.
or just failed to reproduce, you wouldn't be here. You exist because 1,000 people before you didn't die when they should have. You're not lucky. You're the byproduct of violent coincidence and stubborn biology.
Daddy?
So let's take a look at how close you came over and over again to never being born at all. We're going to rank 5 of the deadliest periods in human history, from bad but survivable to you might as well start writing your will at birth. Let's get right into it. Number 5. Ice Age. Around 20,000 years ago, during the last glacial maximum, Earth wasn't exactly cozy. Massive ice sheets, up to 2 miles thick, smothered huge chunks of North America, Europe, and Asia. Average global temperatures dropped by about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 6 degrees Celsius, turning most of the planet into a frozen wasteland where food was a distant rumor. If you were alive back then, your daily routine involved not dying of hypothermia, hunting woolly mammoths the size of school buses, and occasionally running away from creatures like the cave lion, Panthera spelaea, one of the largest wild cats in history. Your house? Probably a mammoth bone hut, or a cave shared with 40 of your least favorite relatives. Your clothing? Animal hides stitched together with bone needles. Want dinner? Good luck. You're armed with a sharpened stick, and your target weighs 6 tons and is actively trying to kill you. And if starvation didn't get you, a simple infected cut probably would. There were no antibiotics, no vaccines, and no emergency rooms, just a lot of home remedies involving chewing random plants and hoping for the best. Despite all this, Homo sapiens adapted, inventing tools, mastering fire, and even creating early art like the cave paintings at Lascaux. Number 4. The dawn of agriculture. Somewhere around 10,000 years ago, humans had a brilliant idea.
Bro,
What's wrong, bro?
I can't chase one more mammoth. My legs hurt.
Bro, you don't even have legs. Come on, man. We're only 400 miles away
if-
from breakfast.
Hear me out. We make food come to us.
How?
We stay in one place, grow stuff, build. I don't know.
Okay.
Welcome to the dawn of agriculture, also known as the moment when humanity accidentally made life way harder. Early farmers swapped the nomadic, hunting lifestyle for settling down in permanent villages, Planting crops like wheat, barley, and lentils. Sounds smart, right? Well, it was. Except for the part where it unleashed a buffet of new problems. Living close together meant diseases could now spread like wildfire.
In 1999, a 10-year-old girl woke to the sound of her friend screaming. Groggy and disoriented, she lifted her head, only to see a shadowy figure looming over her friend, a knife pressed to the girl's throat. Before she could process what was happening, the blade flashed and her friend went silent. The man, satisfied with his work, turned to leave. But then he hesitated. A quick glance back at the room, and his eyes locked onto hers. In an instant, he lunged at her, the cold steel slicing across her throat. Convinced he had finished the job, the man vanished into the night. But he had made a terrible mistake. Clutching her throat, the girl forced herself to move. Stumbling through the house, she made it outside, her vision swimming. She reached another home and banged on the door with all the strength she had left. She tried to scream, to beg for help, but no sound came. Her vocal cords had been severed. When the door finally opened, the horrified resident wasted no time calling 911. Once recovered, she worked with the police to create a sketch, one that would ultimately lead to the capture of Tommy Lynn Sells, the ruthless serial killer known as the Coast to Coast Killer. His reign of terror ended in a Texas courtroom, where he was sentenced to death and later executed.
I'm not talking about your little typical shots. I'm not talking about no little beef. The shit Elon Musk said out his mouth about Bill Gates, if you got a brain, you can understand what he's trying to get at. I'm obviously not going to say it on here. So y'all should just say it down below in the comments. And they said Bill Gates didn't want no smoke with Elon Musk. It was on the news. And when Elon said what he said, the crowd started cheering, y'all. Some people even gasped like, y'all, look at this video.
I do want to ask you about USAID and the comments that Bill Gates made the other day, which I know that you called him...
Yeah, he's a good man.
I know, you've said that already. I wondered... and I'm just...
Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he frequented Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay, well...
Then after that, the lady said, well, he said he regret those days. Y'all know why he regret those days.
Elon is brave for saying that, dude. I mean, he's a billionaire, so he'll be good, but still, dude, that's like crazy. That's actually insane. I wouldn't be surprised if like a couple of days from now, we just see on the news about how Elon Musk just randomly committed.
The words that are about to come out of my mouth, I'm not even surprised they're about to come out of my mouth, but it was only a matter of time before dragons entered the conversation. Yeah, you heard me correctly, dragons. Now you're telling me that an alleged dragon skull and skeleton has been dug up in Romania. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen the video that's circling the internet, and it does in fact look like what I would imagine a dragon skull would look like. But I'm not here to tell you to believe in dragons. That's up to you to make your own mind up about that. But this video shows a guy in a hole with a dragon skull. Now, that got me wanting to jump down the rabbit hole, because you guys know I love jumping down a good rabbit hole. And it made me start thinking, the dragon is the only animal that's allegedly mythological on the zodiac chart, yet all the other animals do exist. How do we explain that? Also, the Bible even refers to dragons. So how do we explain that? And Chinese history says that they use dragon bones for medicine. How do we prove that? How do we explain that? So I want to know if you've heard this, if you've seen the video, what are your thoughts and beliefs on dragons? Because I guess now dragons are showing up. But let's have this conversation tonight, because I love...
So yeah, apparently this is the dragon skull that they're talking about. I mean, I guess it does look like a dragon skull, but at the same time, I be thinking to myself, like, how do we exactly know what dragons look like? Just because it's like depicted in movies, that doesn't mean that's necessarily what a real life dragon would be like, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yet again, the world has been left stunned at what we just witnessed at the White House yesterday. I mean, we knew it was going to be tense because they've been beefing online. But what no one expected was for Trump to ambush South Africa's president with a video compilation and stacks of news reports. And we sure as hell didn't expect Elon to watch on in silence. So what the the hell happened? Well, the pressure leading up to this meeting has actually been building for years. Not many people know, but Trump first commented on farm murders in South Africa during his first term in this 2018 tweet. And back then, similar to now, the South African government dismissed Trump's claims as misinformation. Fast forward 7 years, however, he's now doubled down by cutting aid to South Africa, calling out alleged land grabs and white genocide, and of course the fast tracking of the white farmer refugee program. And so finally, when the two were actually supposed to meet face to face, what was meant to be a brief bilateral meeting turned into a nearly hour-long debate. And to be fair, it did start off pretty well with jokes and pleasantries, but it took a turn when a South African reporter asked Trump,
"What would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?"
But before he could answer, Ramaphosa, who is actually Mandela's chief negotiator, quickly jumped in and said that he could answer that question for the president.
Well, I can answer that for the president.
He said that for Trump to be convinced there wasn't a white genocide, it would take him listening to the voices of South Africans. Now, Trump's response to that, no one expected.
Turn the lights down.
He asked for the lights to be dimmed in the room and for everyone to watch what he had prepared on the screen. What followed was a compilation of videos, but most notably one of Julius Malema, who is a political leader in South Africa, singing a struggle song with a huge crowd chanting "Kill the Boer, kill the white farmer."
Shoot to kill!
Now, this song does have a long history and context and originated during apartheid, but regardless, it made its point, and Trump said directly to Ramaphosa, if this kind of song was sung in America, they would be arrested. But Trump wasn't done. He then brought out something else that he had prepared, a stack of news articles on farm murders. And at this point, other South African leaders joined in on the debate, including the country's richest billionaire and 2 professional golfers. Elon Musk was also there, however, he barely said anything, which is unusual since he's been very outspoken on the topic for months. Now, ultimately, South Africa argued that the country is facing a general crime problem, but not one that is directed solely at white people. Trump, on the other hand, ironically, despite listening to the voices of South Africans in that room, still wasn't convinced. Silver lining though, it didn't end as bad as Zelensky's meeting, and Ramaphosa actually called the visit a great success. So the question is, what do you think?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes we're just going backwards because, like, I get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was always, like, this black versus white thing, but, like, we're in 2025, dude. Like, let's just keep moving forward. I feel like it doesn't even matter as much as people make it out to be.
Scientists have found 2.6 million mysterious eggs underneath a underwater volcano. Literally, this is what they look like. A whole bunch of eggs. They don't know where the eggs come from, but we know the animals that do lay eggs. And so a lot of people are assuming, because they're kind of big, they're not really small eggs, a lot of people are assuming that it is Leviathan. That Leviathan has laid all these eggs, and there's gonna be 2.6 million Leviathan that hatch from these eggs and take over the world. That's what a lot of people are thinking. If I'm being honest, I do think it's something pretty crazy. I just wanna know what animal is laying 2.6 million eggs. Is it Leviathan from the Bible? Or is it a dragon? Because I've seen a lot of people saying that it's probably a dragon. It's near a volcano and it's underwater. Could it be a Leviathan breathing, fire breathing dragon? I don't think any of those things are beyond a realm of possibilities, considering the fact that everything and anything has been happening, and it's kind of weird what our world has been seeing lately. But what are these 2.6 million eggs? What creature could be inside of those eggs? It does not make sense to me.
We are interacting with 4 fucking species. This is nuts. These are confirmed. These are who we're interacting with. We are interacting with the Greys, which we kind of knew, short humanoid involved in the 1947 Corona crash in Roswell. The Nordics, which are basically like us. They look like Scandinavians, basically. So human-like from 5'6" to 6 foot tall. Those look like us. They look like humans. This guy said this in a congressional panel. I can't stress this enough. Unfortunately, the reptilians, apparently according to him, exist. They're humanoid with reptile-like features. Not reptiles, they just perceive that way. Insectoids apparently are also real, humanoid but bug-like faces or eyes, also human-sized. What? Like, this is, he's testified this. He said this in a congressional panel to Eric Burleson, Paulina Luna, that is currently running the Task Force for Transparency. Protect this man with our lives.
Apparently, cheating after signing marriage papers will be illegal in 2026. You'll be arrested for violating a contract. If your partner has enough evidence, they can get you arrested or sue you.
Yes, sir.
Yes! I can't lie, this just absolutely brings a smile to my face because we will no longer have filthy men cheating on their loving and caring wives. Some of you may argue that, they're just gonna be more sneaky with it, they're still gonna cheat on their wives, but nah! Are men really dumb enough to want to put their life in jeopardy just for cheating on their wife? Like, come on. Nowadays, people won't be dumb enough to be cheating on the people that they're meant to love the most, their wives, because it's like, brother, do you know you can be prosecuted for that? Do you know what you're doing right now is a crime? When men go outside now, they'll know to behave themselves. I don't know why this wasn't a law sooner. I don't know why this wasn't in place like sooner. Like, why is it taking them till 2026 to make this a law? This should have been a law from time ago. Even this year, why can't they like fasten up the law and make it effective from this year, effective immediately? Because, brother, this is beautiful. Like, this is absolutely beautiful. Some of you lot's parents would still be together if this was a law during that time, but unfortunately it wasn't. Like,
if I'm being honest, based on his accent, it's not like he's in the UK, so I don't know if that's like a United States law, but apparently, I guess in the UK, I mean, I don't know. I've heard it like even from Americans too that it's gonna be illegal to cheat, and he said it specifically in that like, oh, men won't cheat on their wives, but wives cheat on their husbands too. It's literally like, you know what I'm saying? If anything, the wives are more sneaky.
In 2018, a young woman searched online for an affordable BBL. After seeing prices in her country were too high, she found an ad for a discount clinic overseas. The website looked professional, with smiling patients and promises of safe, quick results. A representative assured her everything was legitimate, so she booked the trip. The clinic was clean but empty when she arrived. The staff were polite but rushed, handing her forms she didn't understand. They told her it was just routine paperwork. Before the surgery, she was given something to relax. Then everything went dark. She woke up sore but relieved, bandaged and told to rest. The staff dismissed her questions about the sharp pain in her side, insisting it was normal. She flew home, believing the worst was over. Weeks later, the pain became unbearable. At the hospital, doctors ran tests, then delivered the chilling news. One of her kidneys was missing. She hired a private investigator. When he arrived at the clinic's address, he found an empty building. Kenyan authorities were informed, but they couldn't find any trace of them at all.
This is gonna keep you up while you sleep tonight. The hollow moon theory. Our moon really doesn't make sense when you look at the facts. Like, it shouldn't exist. The moon is about 25% of Earth's size, the biggest moon to planet ratio of our entire solar system. Pluto is not a planet, that doesn't count. That's 72 times larger than the expected average moon to planet ratio of our solar system. Moons are just not supposed to be this big relative to their home planet, but sure, maybe we got lucky. Despite this, the moon is only 1% of Earth's mass. 1%, meaning it is way lighter than it's expected to be, and we really don't even know why. Unless, of course, the moon is either extremely porous like a sponge or a hollow shell. When looking at this data, NASA's own Dr. Gordon McDonald even said himself it would seem that the moon is more like a hollow than a homogeneous sphere. But oh, that's just the tip and we ain't stopping. Our moon's orbit is way closer than that of any of the other over 400 moons in our solar system, and also has a near perfectly circular orbital path. We don't see this on any other planet, which all have moons with wildly eccentric orbits. Our moon also coincidentally appears as the exact same size as the sun in our sky. Despite our sun having a diameter 400 times larger than the moon just so happens to be exactly 400 times closer to us, defying all odds of randomness, but is officially deemed just a cosmic coincidence. The moon also happens to be tidally locked with our planet, meaning its rotational period is the same as its orbital period around the Earth, which is why the same side is always facing us. This one is not so much a coincidence, as tidally locked moons are actually fairly common in our solar system. But it would also be the perfect excuse for the moon to always look the same in our sky and for us to never see what's on the other side, like an all-seeing eye that never ceases surveillance of our planet. We don't even know for sure how our moon even got there in the first place. The most common explanation is that the early Earth collided with a massive protoplanet called Theia about 4.5 billion years ago, which was thought to be roughly the size of Mars, and the impact caused the resulting debris to coalesce and eventually form the moon. This is known as the giant impact theory. There's also the fission hypothesis, where an early molten Earth was spinning so fast that a part of it got ejected out into space and became the moon. The capture theory, implying the moon just drifted by Earth and was captured by its gravity. And the accretion theory, suggesting that as the early Earth was forming in its accretion disk, a part of that disk clumped together to become the moon. But when studying rock samples from the surface of the moon, we find out that none of these theories quite make any sense, with other NASA scientists like Dr. Robin Brett further quoted as saying, "It seems much easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence. Like on Earth, the newest rocks are on the surface, and the deeper we go, the older the rocks get, as we would naturally expect to be the case. On the moon, it's the other way around. Soil samples from the moon confirm that older rocks are on the surface, and they get younger the deeper we go. The only time we ever see this inverse relationship of rock layer depth to rock age on Earth is through human interaction, like drilling, digging holes, and boring tunnels. Did the same thing happen on the moon? If the moon was hollowed out from the inside, this older inner rock would be brought up to the surface, and this observation would make sense. The lunar crust is also thinner on the side of the moon facing the Earth and thicker on the dark side of the moon, and researchers still have no idea why. The moon doesn't have a magnetic field, much the same as other planets' moons, but strangely, moon rock samples are strongly magnetized. Craters on the moon are all virtually the same depth, no matter how big or small they are. On Earth, bigger craters naturally go much deeper than smaller ones, as the impact was greater. Not on the moon, almost like there's a solid layer underneath preventing the crater from going too deep. Moon rocks are also much older than the oldest rocks on Earth by millions of years, blowing the fission hypothesis and accretion theory out of the water. The moon contains traces of uranium-236, a radioactive isotope that doesn't occur naturally on Earth, but rather through the highly complicated scientific process of nuclear fission, something that only an intelligent species is capable of. Zirconium, chromium, and titanium are all relatively rare Earth metals, but are somehow quite abundant on the moon. Those three elements are also some of the most durable and corrosive resistant that we know of, perfect for building a massive structure. And they've even done quantifiable experiments that tell us that's exactly what the moon might be. When Apollo 12 was leaving the moon's orbit, they intentionally dropped their lunar lander down to the surface. When it crashed, seismic measurements showed that the moon reverberated and rang like a bell for an hour. They did not expect this. Only hollow objects are expected to reverb like this, especially with something as small as a lunar lander. During Apollo 13, they tested that again with a much larger object, dropping a spent Saturn V booster rocket that impacted the lunar surface. This time, the moon rang for 3 hours, with vibrations going as deep as 32 kilometers beneath the surface, and even got faster the deeper they got. This doesn't happen on Earth, or even solid objects for that matter, and again is only expected to occur on something hollow.
You know what? You're gonna think I made this story up, cause it is wild. Now the story is about this guy, James, and James is 35, living in a small town in West Virginia, and he's kind of an awful guy. Like, he drinks a lot, he abuses his wife, but one night in 1983, James gets what's coming to him. Because it's late and he comes home from the bar drunk, and he decides his wife needs to make him a snack. His wife is this woman, Cleo, and Cleo's 35. And so he yanks Cleo out of the bed because it's the middle of the night and she's asleep, and he's yelling at her, "Make me some food!" And so she makes him some soup. But then he gets mad that the soup is too cold, and grrr, he slings the bowl across the kitchen and bam, it smashes against the wall. Then he notices their wood stove had gone out, so he's all pissed off about that too. And this causes a whole big fight, and he's like roughing up Cleo, and he's chasing her around, and he's dragging her. It is awful. Now by this point, all this wakes up Cleo's son. We'll call him 17, because he's 17. And 17 is James's stepson. And I guess 17 tries to intervene, and this turns into an even bigger fight. And so James ends up roughing him up too. And pretty quickly, James has Cleo and her 3 sons sitting at the kitchen table, and he's berating them, all while holding a huge kitchen knife and shaking it at them. Then he grabs a .22 and he starts waving it around, screaming at them. Now all this screaming wakes up this woman, Cleo's mom, who we'll call Grandma. And Grandma is 55 and she lives next door. And so she wakes up and she runs over and she sees James waving the .22 around, and she eventually tries to grab it from him, and a struggle ensues. But Grandma, she ain't playing around, and she wrestles the .22 away from his drunk ass, and he lunges at her to get it back, and then blam, she shoots him right in the chest. So now James is lying there unalived. And Cleo is like, well, now what are we gonna do? I guess they don't want Grandma to go to prison for murder. And so they decide to bury the body in the backyard. And for some reason, they make 17 and his younger brother do it. And so 17 and his younger brother are in the backyard digging this big ass hole, and eventually the hole is big enough and they put James in there and they bury him. But now they have another problem. James's truck is there and they need to get rid of it. And so they put their heads together and they come up with a plan to drive the truck down to the local river and push it into the water and make it look like James got into a car accident. Now, I don't know how they're going to stage a car accident while James's body is buried in the backyard, but this is their plan. And so Cleo and Grandma and 17, they head over to the river, and they take James's truck and they take their car to drive back home in. And so the two vehicles drive about 30 miles to the river and they park James's truck on a hill, and 17 gets out and he starts pushing it toward the water until it starts rolling forward. And it rolls, and it rolls, and it gets close to the shore, but then, bam, it stops because it gets stuck in the mud. So then Cleo and Grandma get out of the car. And I guess they're like standing there and they don't want to go up and physically push the truck anymore because it's now in the mud, and I guess they don't want their footprints all in that mud, which is smart. And so they're like, all right, I guess we'll just leave. But here's the thing. They locked their keys in their car. Now, why they locked their car door in the first place when they're alone out in the middle of nowhere, I have no idea. But now they're locked out. And it's 1983, so no cell phones. However, luckily, someone passes by, and it's a small town, and they all know each other, and so this person gives them a ride back to their house so they can get a spare key and retrieve their car and go home. Then, the next day, Cleo calls police and files a missing persons report for James so that she doesn't look suspicious. And immediately, the police start looking, and they find his truck, and they start dragging the river looking for James's body. But, of course, they don't find anything, and no one suspects Cleo or Grandma, so all they have to do is lay low and keep quiet, and they'll never get caught. Until a few days have passed since James's death, and no one suspects a thing. But Cleo is sitting at home suffering. She just can't get this whole situation out of her head. She keeps thinking about it. James might have been an abusive asshole, but she's feeling bad for his family, and she's thinking that if his body is never found, then he won't get a proper burial, and that just doesn't feel right to her. And so she comes up with a new plan. First, she waits until nighttime. Then she makes 17 and his brother dig James's body back up. And so her new plan is to take James's body to the local river and throw him over the bridge near the area where they dumped his truck, and then police will find the body and they'll put two and two together and they'll assume it was a car accident, and then he'll get a proper burial. Perfect plan. What could possibly go wrong? Well, once they finally get James out of the hole in the backyard, snap! Grandma starts freaking out because she realizes the .22 that she unalived him with is actually registered to her. She owns it. So if police find the bullet inside of James, they could trace it back to her. And so she gets yet another idea. She'll just remove the bullet from his body. And so they get James's decomposing body and they put it on the kitchen table, and Grandma gets a big kitchen knife and she cuts it open and she starts looking around in there for a bullet. But she can't find it. So then she takes out his heart and lungs, I guess to get a better look in there, but she still can't find this bullet. So then she just gives up and she throws the heart and lungs away. Like, oh, okay, I guess I'm done. And so anyway, Cleo, Grandma, and 17, they load James into the car and they drive him to the river onto that bridge. And then these two women and a teenager pull his body out of the car and they yeet him over the side of the bridge. And boom, James's foot gets caught on the structure of the bridge. And now the body is hanging upside down, dangling off the underside of this bridge. And they're all like, fuck, how are we gonna get him down? And so Cleo and Grandma, they send poor 17 to climb up under the bridge onto the understructure to try and knock James's body loose. But then, in the middle of all this, out of nowhere, pow, headlights appear. It's the police. And Cleo and Grandma, they panic like, oh shit! And they jump in their car and they speed away. But they leave 17 there underneath the bridge. And so then 17 freaks out and he runs off too, into the woods. And police, they see James's body hanging there from the bridge. And they're like, what the fuck? What kind of hillbilly West Virginia bullshit is this? But anyway, police eventually find 17 in the woods and bam, they arrest him. Also, bam, they arrest Cleo. While Grandma ends up turning herself in. And so ultimately, Cleo is found guilty of disinterment of a body and she ends up serving about 2 years in prison. While 17 does a little time in juvenile detention, but not very much. While Grandma takes a plea deal, but I guess the judge feels sorry for her because, you know, the whole self-defense of it all, and she only ends up spending 55 days in jail. Wow.
That story turned out so much worse than it needed to be. I feel like if they initially just told them the truth, like they initially just reported like, oh yeah, he got shot, blah, 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 blah. He was trying to harm everyone. If they initially just told them what happened at the start, I feel like they would have been straight. I feel like they would have been good. But anyways, YouTube said you guys would really like this video, so make sure to click on this video right here.